2J Cup is going to be today race number 6, sponsored by Tab Touch, race number 7, I should say. And the Cup is due to go at 4:42. So looking forward to terrific racing at 2J. Always great pictures come in from there. Calaberan Pacing, this is their big meeting, isn't it? The 100 years of pacing at Calaberan. So good luck to the Calaberan Trotting Club there for their big meeting there today.
That's some achievement, isn't it,
Oh,
mate?
it is. It certainly is.
A century of racing. Congratulations to everyone involved at the club, and we wish you all the very best. I hope you get a great big crowd there today and celebrate a lot of the highlights. Over 100 years, there's been plenty of them. Can you imagine some of the characters that will be there today, Marty? There'll be some great old bush characters that have been involved in the sport for a very long period of time. Generations of families will be there today. It's really, really special. So good luck to Calaberan.
They had one of the greats on, Tom Groves, W.T. Groves. And he always used to go up to the goldfields and drive there as well when we had pacing at the Crookshank Sports Arena. And he'd win a lot of races as well. But we always had a old saying amongst us, more runs. He's made more runs than Groves on Reign Supreme. He used to have a horse called Reign Supreme. He could make 3 or 4 runs in a race on the horse.
Wow.
Try and get around him, wouldn't, drop back, go forward. Oh, he was a beauty, Tommy.
Pretty talented horse.
Oh, yeah, and he used to rock in the cart, Tommy. He was a beauty, W.T. Groves, and it was great to hear him on the radio.
Wasn't it a big part of the carnival over the years, the harness racing as well?
I know it died out, but when the whole round in the 70s and 80s and, 60s, it was so important that you'd have the 3 pacing meetings and the 3 galloping meetings all in a week.
And it was mandatory if you were going up for the round. You just go to everything.
Oh, you went to the lot?
No doubt.
Yep.
Yeah, I know, sort of going back, any time we went up, you just lock in. Make sure you're at the trots. There'd always be a great buzz there, and then you run into the same people. You start talking form for the next day at the races, and just a great vibe and a wonderful community. I mean, you must look back with such fond memories of your time up there on the goldfields.
Oh, yeah.
It was when racing, I mean, the round itself is still very special as it is now, but you go back to your childhood and your teenage years growing up in Kalgoorlie, and it was when racing was at its absolute brilliant best. It must, at different times, you must have flashbacks and think, what about the crowds and the incredible moments that you had growing up?
Yeah, that is for sure, and you can't take them away. I love the Crookshank Sports Arena, tight little track. There'd be that bend out of the main straight was a real tight bend, and horses would be trying to make their runs, and everyone would be pushing out, and there'd be a knock 'em down fall, and there was always carnage out of that bend at some stage.
Very competitive.
Oh yeah, it was great.
And even the other sport as well, Marty, up there on the goldfields. I know you had a chat to Scooter through the week, but the football up on the goldfields has always been a really high level and really well supported by the local communities, and still to this day it's very popular up there. But given how far away it is from the CBD, it's a community that just love their racing and sport.
Now, let's get to the text line before we get to our man James Sullivan, because he wants to talk about a game last night. Did you watch the first couple of minutes of that? 2 concussions and 2 players off concussions in the first 2 hit-ups.
If you don't mind.
Wow. Amazing scenes.
All plans out the window, but the Chooks really did serve up the Sea Eagles there last night, particularly in that second half. They just ran away with it. It was comfortable, 40-16. And it now poses the question, Marty. I think the market certainly has had this very much as a race in 2 on the way through. We'll ask Sully, but just prior to going to him, can you see a world at all where either of the sides that have won this weekend get anywhere near Melbourne or Penrith?
No, not for me.
Not with the rest.
I think Sal thinks Penrith are vulnerable, but I don't. I really do think this is Storm's big chance to win another flag. That's for mine. Now, Rusty Gates has come out with the beauty. Hi, Marty and Shortte. Thought the turning point in the preliminary final yesterday was when Geelong forward Sean Manor early in the third quarter had a chance to put Geelong 5 goals ahead, but instead of handballing to Brian Myers, tried to dribble a goal through from about 10 metres out. As soon as he attempted it, my immediate thought was, that's a blue Manor. And it proved to be the case, as only a point was the result. After that, there was a definite swing in momentum in Brisbane's favour. Although the lead chopped and changed, I had the feeling that the Brisbane Lions players looked a little fresher and would eventually overrun Geelong. That is from Rusty Gates. And I had the same feeling, And do you remember the NRL Grand Final last year? We'll bring Sal in. Sal, a very good morning.
Hello, Marty. Hello, David. How are we?
Good. We're just talking about turning points in game and remembering that NRL final last year when it was all Brisbane and it was either a forward pass or a drop pass and they were in and that would have just made it too big a lead for Brisbane. And when whatever happened, can you remind me, was it a forward pass or a drop pass or whatever? And at that point, I said, hang on. And that's where it turned on its head.
Yeah, drop ball and down that left edge.
Yes.
A drop pass, didn't find its spot, and they were only 10 out. It looked like all money. Here we go. Ezra Mam had already scored 3, and we thought, oh, here we go. And then, as you said, Leota got down the field, bang, made that big break for the Cleary try, and then that was the end of it. Home they rolled.
You just need one moment to turn it around, don't you? It's such... These teams are so closely matched that you just need that one moment, and bang, it can turn on its head.
Yep, exactly, and that's the big thing with it, isn't it? And now, look, you're mentioning AFL, we've got the same now in the NRL. Boys, the tradition continues. This is an amazing stat. No team outside the top 4 has won an NRL or ARL premiership since 1995, and the top 4 back there for next weekend's games.
That's remarkable, isn't it? You would think over that period of time that there would be at least one team buck the trend, but just goes to show, Sal, I think at the end of the day that they've got it pretty right, because I've always been of the opinion that sides that play really well throughout the course of the regular season should be rewarded with a nice luxury or two come finals time. They've earned that right by being, one of the better sides throughout the course of the season.
It's been amazing throughout the first 2 weeks of this final series, and both Friday night games are the sides I'm going to hone in on, because you've got to turn up. If you fall asleep in the first half, we saw 2 weeks ago, Penrith blitz, 24-0 after 22 minutes. We saw the same on Friday night with the Cronulla Sharks. I tell you what, boys, they copped a hammering over here all week. Trust me. About, obviously losing 7 in a row, this and that. Well, they came out and they blew the Cowboys off the park. I don't know what jet they caught, but they were jet lagged because it was 24-0 at half time. And you can't play catch-up footy. I know they did their best. They nearly got there in that second half, but you've got to turn up. You've got to play for 80 minutes.
And what you've got to do, it doesn't matter what the sport is. When you get your turn, you've got to use the momentum to advantage and put it on the scoreboard. It's no good looking flashy and having lots of the ball without putting it on the scoreboard. So scoreboard pressure at the end of the day is the most important. And I think we've seen it in the NRL and also the AFL finals this year. When you get your turn, you must make sure that you convert and really put an edge on your opponents.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, no, it's been that sort of game. And then last night, boys, I've been watching footy for a long time. I have never seen a crazier first 2 tackles in a game of football in my life. And, we looked at Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, Marty. We were having a joke about it last week. He'll come back. He'll make an impact.
Yep.
Well, young Cooler thought he'd make an impact. He thought he'd come and clean Jared Waerea-Hargreaves up first tackle. He's gone. Category 1. Gone for the match. Next tackle, well, it was mayhem because they played on, and Cooler wasn't off the field. So the ref's gone, hang on, back we go. This is all in the opening 2 minutes.
Yep.
Next tackle, Jake Trbojevic is gone. But he came back on. He had a cap too. But all of a sudden, Manly, you think about it, they're on the back foot, and then James Tedesco, he put on a masterclass in his 250th.
Yeah, you half-picked him, didn't you? He was your man to score. It was a big guy from Sea Eagles who was just belting everyone up as well with his big tackles.
Ola Kawatu or
Yeah,
Paseka?
Ola Kawatu. Wow. Didn't he line a few up?
Yeah, he was, mate. I tell you what, it just became that. We knew it was going to be a physical battle. But that opening bits when they lose young Cooler, who, as we know, scored the match-winning try against the Bulldogs last week, and it just puts them on the back foot. And, the Roosters, same scenario, they led 20-4 at half-time. But they had a little bit of a finals, shadow as well, because going into last night's game, they're only 2 from their last 8 in finals. So it sets it up nicely next week. Obviously, both these prelims Friday. How big's Friday night going to be in Melbourne? We've got a public holiday in Melbourne. The joint will be packed, and obviously we know there was talk they might move it, to Marvel, but I don't think that'll happen. It's at Amy.
Yeah, I'll keep it at Amy. It's where the Storm play and keep it as an advantage and pack the joint out. It will be going off, won't it? The Melbourne Storm, they're $1.27. The Roosters, $3.75, 10.5. Is it theirs to lose? Is it that simple?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think it'll be a bit of a grind. We know this back line of the Roosters is very, very good. But when you look at the other side, you look at the Melbourne Storm. I think the clash, obviously we look at Pappenhausen and Tedesco, but at the moment, that halves combination's a big one for me. And then, obviously, with, Munster and Hughes. But, no, the Roosters will be up and about. They had to get through that one last night, and they got through it unscathed. So that's the main thing.
Just listening to Frank Panisi on the way through, Sol on a few different stations to build up. But Melbourne Storm have had that beautiful scenario where Bellamy's had them with that nice buffer on the rest of the competition, and they've had the luxury of being able to rest the players that they've wanted to rest at the right time. They've, again, had the week off this week. Just get the feeling that that is something that at this time of year, particularly in such a physical comp like the NRL, to have your players cherry ripe coming in while potentially some of your opposition are banged up after a really tough, hard contest. It has to be a nice luxury going into the preliminary final.
Oh, very much so, Dave. And the big thing, and I've spoken about it the last few weeks, is they are at full strength because of that luxury. They've rested the right blokes, and all of a sudden you got your Christian Welch's back, you got your big Nelsons back, you got Munster back, Pappenhausen, as we know, he's had a week off. He came back for the semi 2 weeks ago. So they're all back, they're all fit. Xavier Coates, there's another one. We know he's a freak, and he came back and they took him off after 55, I think, 2 weeks ago, just to give him. It was all safe. So, as you say, mate, they've all been racked in cotton wool and they're ready to go. And quite interesting for the Melbourne Storm, their feeder club in the New South Wales Cup, the North Sydney Bears, and we love that, boys. The Bears, the big announcement. Well, they're in a New South Wales Cup Grand Final next Sunday as well. So, It's been a good year for the Melbourne Storm.
All right. What about head-to-head of recent times? I might be putting you on the spot here, but Storm Roosters. I think Storm have had a good record, have they?
Oh, my word, they have.
Yep.
Yeah, it's astonishing. Yeah, when you look at what they've done, they've played 30, or they're 31-19. There you go. They've played 50 times since 1998. And it's the Storm 31 and the Roosters 19. So, yeah, at this stage, it's a big and pretty, obviously, it's a little bit tighter. When you look at the other semi-final, Panthers and the Sharks, 44 times. Sharks 23, Panthers 20. So, yeah, that'll be evened up a little bit as well. I think the big question is, and it'll be during the week, is can the Sharks beat the Panthers? And you got to go, that old saying, boys, risk for reward.
Yep.
And that's what they've got to do this Shark side. The only way they're going to beat the Panthers is take a risk, and let's hope it gets plenty of rewards.
Well, it will be interesting. Penrith have been there and done it, Sol. I guess the big question mark when you look at a side like this is how hungry are they this far into the domination that they've had of this competition for a significant period. Now, the upside is they've been there and done it. They know exactly what to expect. None of this is new for them. Other people would then question how hungry are they, given that they've been there for so long, and are they potentially comfortable given what they've already achieved in the game? How do you view it?
I had a real good chat to Liam Martin 2 weeks ago. He's a good fella, Liam, and I had a good chat, and I said, mate, what's the feeling? He said, so at the start of the year, no one thought we could win it. We've lost. You ever look at the cattle they've lost over the last couple of years? Crichton, Burton, Kickout. There's three off the top of my head. Of course, Spencer Leniu. So there's guys, and, he just had that steely look in his eyes. He said, we just want to prove people wrong. So don't worry about that. They've got plenty of hunger, Shorty.
Excellent. Well, if they both get through, and I mean, the markets are certainly reflecting that they likely will. Yep. It's a heavyweight final.
Oh, it is a heavyweight.
It really is. It's mouth-watering, the prospect of it.
Yep.
The market to win overall, and this tells the story. Panthers $2.30, Storm $2.40, Roosters $8, Cronulla $10. So they've got an absolute chasm between the first two and the rest, and I really do hope that the two good sides get through. It'd make for one hell of a final. Well,
the amazing thing is we haven't seen it, have we? You go back the last couple of years, I know Penrith have been there, but the Storm haven't. So this is what we do want. And yes. I can hear just Marty, I can hear both of you just, how good will it be? And that's what we want, And as I said, they haven't met in a grand final. well, not recently, have they? So this is the big one for me. Yeah, I want to see it, but obviously the Roosters and the Sharks, they'll have a little bit of opposition to that during the week.
Hey, so one we can talk about during the week, but can we just touch on it now? The news that New Guinea are going to be the next team in. What's happening there?
No, not the next team.
No?
The team after.
Oh,
the team
okay.
After. Yep.
So we are the next team. Is that official?
Well, all but. There is other bids, but the thing is we haven't heard who the other bids from. So at this stage, I think it'll be the Bears. Well, it will be the Bears. And then after that, it will be the Papua New Guinean side. So obviously the promise of all the federal government money, which is, is 600 million. That's handy. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
That's there's been interesting agreement come across there, but you do different things, I guess, to look after your world partners and neighbours, Marty. By the sounds of things, well, one thing, Sol, this is so exciting for our local rugby fraternity, and like you only have to look at the crowd numbers that turn up when the NRL visit WA to know how much hunger and appetite there is here in WA for high quality NRL action. I love this link to the Bears as well, Sol, and you can tell us a bit more about this. But the beautiful part about it is you're going to have a locked-on WA crowd every time they play here at home, but every time they play in New South Wales, they're going to have all the old Bears fans turning up that will hopefully embrace this team as their own as well. And it's almost like either in New South Wales or in WA, any time they play, you would expect them to have really healthy crowds and lots of support.
Dave, it's one word and I'll use it twice. Win-win.
Yep.
That's what it is. That's the bottom line. And I've tried to explain to a few of my Western Australian friends and, we should be standing alone. We can't stand alone. The bottom line is you still need that New South Wales Cup feeder. You know, at the end of the day, we've only got 5 first-grade sides in Perth at the moment, which that will increase as we move on because they will come. At the end of the day, once it's all sorted, players will come because they want to be there. And as I said, you're spot on, mate. I've called the North Sydney Bears 4 times in the last 7 weeks, and you see the old Reds jerseys everywhere. My bloke's wearing the Reds jerseys. I said, how good's this?
Yeah, okay.
You know, and they're up and about. And you talk about, traditional clubs. Next week, Bears play Newtown Jets in a New South Wales Cup Grand Final. But for us moving forward, I think it works because, as I said, you'll have that feeder club situation. You'll have blokes playing, at a high level in the New South Wales Cup. If there's a few injuries, they'll slip into that NRL system. So, I think, the feeder club situation will work beautifully.
So we'll listen in on Thursday, have a chat on Drive on Friday as we gear up for the preliminaries next weekend. Thanks for coming on.
Stay safe, boys.
The rise by 3. Detonator Jack off the fence who Gotcha's had it. Raw Patronage running on and so's Fangirl on the outside. Major Bill's coming back to them. Here's Fangirl and Raw Patronage wide out. Fangirl moved up. Through the middle is my Oberon. But Fangirl, she bounces back. Shit, that's arrogant. She was toying with him at the end. And Fangirl, a brilliant winner of the 7 stakes.
Yeah, she won the 7 stakes there in emphatic fashion. Let's talk about it with Chris Nelson. A very good morning.
Good morning, Marty. Good morning, Shorty.
Good morning to you, Chris. And love the call there from Darren. And that's arrogant late. And was actually in studio with Marty yesterday when this race was on. And it wasn't exactly sort of laid on for Fangirl. The leaders looked to be sort of having it relatively comfortable. But, gee whiz, you could just see on the home corner when Fangirl got into that clear air, she really did go about her work late and put that to bed pretty quickly over the concluding stages.
Yeah, you're spot on. I mean, they ran home in, 33.73. So that tells you that they didn't go all that hard, as you mentioned, in front there. So the leaders had their chance. And, look, I did read this morning that J-Mac and Chris Waller had decided with Fangirl. She is pretty one-dimensional. There's no use trying to get her into a spot that's closer, even, better than midfield. Just let her drift out the back, do her thing, bring her to the outside and let her wind up. And that's what she did. And she produced a big section. We get home over the top of them. Look, she was better than those. That wasn't a top-class race. She should have won, and she did. I thought Royal Patronage, who came with her down the outside, he just peaked his last 100 metres. But, wow, he's 2 weeks off in Epsom, which is obviously over the same distance as same track and distance as yesterday. So I think he'll be in a perfect shape for that Epsom. And Zugotcha, the other runner there, pulled up with some, well, nothing found officially, but there must have been some issues there because that run was well below par. Yeah, but all honours with the winner and the third horse going forward. I would say we won't see Fangirl again until the King Charles in a month's time.
Okay, well, Royal Patronage, interestingly, led last start and won and was ridden back. Was there any reports that was going to happen?
No, nothing that I saw in the steward's report at all. And I must admit, Marty, I was surprised as well because we know with this stable, they always have their horses up on speed, very rarely to see them back in the field. So that was interesting. And now what does that mean for the Epsom? Do they go back or do they go forward? Maybe the barrier will dictate that.
Maybe they're having a little look just in case it did draw wide in the Epsom. I don't mind it, but as long as people know, I thought there'd be decent pace in that race and there wasn't, but she still won. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. Kingston Town Stakes, let's go back to that. Alias, look, I thought it was a bit of a risk. There was synthetic hoof filler first time. And I was prepared to risk it. Chow Wolf had its chance to run past, but couldn't. It was tough, the winner.
Yeah, typical of the stable, isn't it? The Waterhouse spot stay as tough as old boots. Sat second in the run behind the stablemate Serpentine. And look, 3 from 3 at Randwick over the 2,000 metres now since coming to Australia. So unbeaten in the country. Record overall is a cracker, only beaten twice. And those twice, or 2 defeats have been placing. I think second place finishes. Heads towards the Metropolitan in 2 weeks' time. And I just thought, again, on the line, although Chair Wolf was making good ground all the way down the straight, that last 50 metres or so being held by Elias, I thought. But keep in mind, Chair Wolf was up 500 metres, so we'll take a lot of benefit from that run.
Yeah, I'm a Chair Wolf fan. I really like the horse. I was very keen on it yesterday. I was very keen on it at the start before where it was a really good winner. It was 500 metres up in trip between runs is a pretty significant scenario for the horse. I think you're right, though. I think it might have just peaked that last little bit. And Elias, it's like everything in life. Winners win is the old tag. And Elias is now just a horse that's it's a great habit to form, just being comfortable winning. And they pop themselves up on top of the speed. They get all the favours when you can dictate and dominate races in that scenario. And all honours to the winner. Chell Wolf is a horse I'm not dropping off, though. It was far from disgrace there yesterday. And really interesting listening to Joe Pride. I've heard a few of his interviews over the last fortnight in regards to Chell Wolf. And he's a very honest and upfront operator when it comes to his thoughts on his horses. And Chell Wolf is one horse that he has consistently said, I'm really not 100% sure where to go or what the ceiling is with this horse. I'm still learning more about the horse as we go along. But one thing we do know is most places that he's taken this galloper, it's got to where, the top level of the race is and been pretty comfortable at that level. So it's still a horse with a fair bit of upside, I'd suggest, Chris.
Yeah, definitely the case. Untapped. And look, was running up against Rip Rocket and giving it a run. We won't see, unfortunately, Rip Rocket, which is such a shame. But, yeah, you have to follow Chair Wolf going forward. I think both of those two. I've got highlights, big yellow highlights through both of those names there, the first two, Elias and Chair Wolf. And, look, Zardozi, she hasn't come back very well this prep. She had every possible chance there behind the speed. That's 3 runs. The last 2 certainly have been very, very flat. So I'm not sure where they go with her.
Just got one for the punters and listeners to hone in on here, and probably next starter, it could well be the Metrop. Land Legend. We had Chris Waller on Drive on Thursday, and we asked him about this horse because you go back when it won on Everest Day last year. It was one of the most outstanding, outrageous wins you'd ever see when it was trained by young James Ferguson over from England. Been off the scene. He said one more run. That type of run, when you look at it, you're going to say, what's he on about? That's the type of run that will just bring this horse really forward. If he goes to the Metrop, he'll be double-figure odds. Just keep him very safe. What about the Bill Ritchie for a finish?
I've got I've just put another highlight to another horse there, Marty, and it was Land Legend. So there you go. I'm taking you on there.
Yep.
Not taking you on. I'm going with you.
Be with me.
I'll be with you. Now, the Bill Ritchie, this is a cracker. McHale, the 3 back on the fence, first up, has a very good first up record. It's even better now. Squeezed through, and then Gringotts, who unfortunately probably should have won the race for Gringotts supporters, 200 metres out, finally got into the clear and absolutely charged home and just missed. Now, he's an interesting horse, Gringotts. He raced really well in Queensland. He raced well before that in Sydney. They were talking about him in the winter as being a lightweight chance in a Stradbroke. So if he's a chance in a Stradbroke, is he a chance in an Epsom? You'd have to think he's a chance in a couple of weeks' time. He was very good. So I'm following him. Kintyre, I thought, was good for a stayer that was wide, no cover, ran 4th. Tom Kitten, every possible. Freedom Rally, race 2 Keen in the blinkers. And Scarlet Oak was a major, major disappointment. She pulled up 1/5 lane, but I don't know about her. The last couple have been disappointing.
And in the build-up to this race yesterday, from the yard, there were some significant pushes for Scarlet Oak. Both of the people that were commenting on the horses and how they looked said, no knock on the way this girl looks. She looks ready to fire. So for her to be looking so good and then put in a performance like that, you just wonder whether or not... it's not quite there to be for Scarlet Oak at the minute.
Just want to add something here. McHale by Shooting to Win stands at Oakland Park, $9,900. Neville Duncan's team down there, they'd be wrapped with that win in the Bill Richard Group 3 for Shooting to Win. Stands over here in the West. And one I am going to sack here is Freedom Rally. I've been on it 2 starts in. He put the blinkers on, wanted to over race a little, but I think it might be back to Queensland for him.
I don't quite think he's up to that level, Marty. I think he's a Queensland horse at this stage. Tony always gives his horses a chance interstate. You know, if they measure up, they measure up. But I don't know about this one. I think you're right. I think he's better placed back up here.
Okay. He got to play to win, but it's cost me a couple. I know that. T Rose Stakes, 1,400. Well, how good is she? How good is Autumn Glow?
Well, she's very good. Now she's, 3 from 3. She had to take the step up from beating, not inferior, but, I'd say inferior opposition than she faced yesterday, and she did it. She sat on speed. But this race was very, 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 very heavily on-pace favourite. They run home 33.30. Manal led it a canter. Autumn Glow sat outside and breezed. So, look, she had every right to win. But just that last bit, she gets away from them. But I tell you what, guys, there was a run here. Snow in May. And the fastest last 600, 400 and 200 the entire race came from the back of the field, as I said, in a slowly run affair, and will also head towards the Flight Stakes, as does Autumn Glow in a couple of weeks' time. That run was a cracker for a horse that's come off a win at Newcastle last time out.
Sure was. Siren Quinella to the Autumn Sun as well there, both by the Autumn Sun, so they'll have a return bout in the flight, as you said.
Yeah, and Amina down at the back there was only beaten 2.9 officially, but with that tempo on further back in the field, was never going to get to them, but did run some good sectionals, so don't sack Amina.
No, you could just see in the run, another race, Marty and I were in studio watching, and there was just the old eyeballing factor going on there, turning for home, Autumn Glow and Manal, and they were neck and neck, and you could just see, though, one horse wanted it more, and there's a lot to look forward to with Autumn Glow. J-Mac, it must be said too, this was the start of J-Mac riding the quaddie. So he went up to race number 6, nothing there, Your Honour, and then he decided, you've had your fun now, it's time for me to take charge, and just rode the last 4 legs of the program, the quaddie, and the next of them was Fangirl, as we touched on, just absolutely stunning there. Race number 9, the 3rd leg of his treble, I Am Me, defeating Steffi Magnetica and Marzu. Steffi Magnetica, of course, came with some good Queensland form. I thought it was a good run again yesterday, Steffi Magnetica, but all honours with the winner there, I Am Me, who just dictated terms and was too strong for them.
Yeah, had a good run once again, exactly the same as the Concorde a couple of weeks ago, off the fence after the leader, which was the same leader, way to the stars, and then hit the front, looked home, and we all started to think this is good. And then we saw Steffi Magnetica starting to make some ground through along the inside. She squeezed through. She really didn't get a lot of room. Maybe if she had have got a clearer crack earlier, she may have been able to run down IME. There was a little between them on the line. So, look, IME, they're talking about Everest. I couldn't have IME in Everest. I think 1,200 metres with a lot of pressure on doesn't really suit. But I think there's a couple here. Steffi Magnetica definitely heads towards an Everest, you would think. And Private Eye, he was really good here. He threw that wide gate.
Yep.
And he went back. I think Jay Ford didn't know what to do earlier. Then he was stuck out in no man's land. So he's gone back, and then he's gone wide again on the turn. And he's run the fastest last 200 metres of the entire race. And you could see him down the outside eating up the ground. He's come back in great order, Private Eye, and he'll head towards Everest. That's no doubt about that.
Yeah, she's just one of those bomb-proof sprinters, isn't she? She puts herself up on the speed, doesn't have a big turn of foot, but she can just get away from them for long enough and hold on. And, 11 from 23, we'd all love to own her, that is for sure. But I agree with her. I wouldn't be jumping into an Everest with her. That Mumbai Muse will win a race. I don't know where or when, but might even take it down the straight at Flemington again, where it won last year on Oaks Day. Bet it'll pop up. It's holding its form. And then J-Mac made it a what'd you say? He won the
4 legs of the quaddie.
The
4 legs of the quaddie, yeah.
And it paid $35.
Correct, Mundo. Yeah, and which is pretty much, it was very similar to what the multi would have paid. So
okay, up the lot.
$35.20. So the first leg on fix was $2.10 Autumn Glow. Second leg Fangirl $1.85. Third leg I Am Me $2.70, and then the final leg Moravia $3.30. The Blanc J Mac Quaddie $35.20. $10 for the punters that wanted to go Blanc through. $352. That would have been something late in the day. I'll tell you something though, Chris. This is not isolated. He rode 4-pack, I think, on Wednesday there at the midweek program. He is just an absolute marvel, J-Mac. And at a time of year where there's a lot of high-quality jocks in town, he continues to just dominate. He is a wonderful rider.
Well, for any punters out there that don't have time to do a lot of form, I mean, if you just follow the likes of J-Mac, he's doing the form for you because he's always on the best horse in the race. And 9 times out of 10, he finds the best position for that horse in the race, which he did on most of those yesterday. So you don't get big odds, there's no doubt about that, but you'll back plenty of winners.
A wonder follow from the Gold Coast, race 7. Who is it?
Midori Beauty, the Hong Kong horse who won first up at Doomben a couple of weeks ago. He couldn't get a crack at them yesterday, and when he did, he charged home. He should have won. So follow Midori Beauty. Double to Andrew Mallyon, a double to Emily Lang once again, and 2 to Chris Waller, who had a great day out, didn't he?
He certainly did. We've got to get to some ads and then Racetrack Ralphy, talk about the meeting at Caulfield. We'll listen in on Wednesday morning.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day.
Good on you, Chris.
Blah, blah, blah. Let Marty Young and David Shortte do all the talking on the Aftermath. Sunday morning at its best on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Yes, with a lot of help from Racetrack Ralphy from racetrackralphy.com. A very good morning.
Good morning, boys. Can I just start off by just putting one thing to bed for everyone who's not in Victoria?
Yes.
No one in Melbourne is disappointed that there's 2 non-Melbourne sides. If our side doesn't play, we don't care who plays. We're happy for everyone.
Yeah.
Well, and it's going to be
silly narrative that. Yeah, go on.
So I was just going to say, and Marty and I were talking about earlier this hour, Ralphie, it shapes up as being an excellent grand final. 2 really hot sides right now.
Absolutely. That's all you want. You want form, and I reckon more people in Melbourne who didn't barrack for Geelong were barracking for Brisbane last night. There you go.
Geez, had some crowd there, didn't they? It was wonderful to see.
Absolutely. It's brilliant.
Before we get on to racing yesterday at Caulfield, how's that MND challenge going?
The MND challenge is going well. So you just Google my name, and it's and the MND challenge. I've raised nearly 4,000. So we've got 10 days to go. We'll do 27 push-ups twice a day through September.
Those pipes are starting to look pretty solid, Ralphie. You'll be up there with Marty soon.
That's it. Arm wrestle coming up.
Yeah, Racetrack. What about Caulfield yesterday? How'd it play?
Okay, Caulfield played as expected lane-wise, so when the rail's out 6 metres, that's sort of the no-go zone for leaders because the best spot is really 10 to 12 out, so that makes it, it's pretty easy to get there if you're off pace. I've seen Vince's data now, and it played effectively a soft track, so it was given out a good 4. Don't worry about that. If you couldn't handle some genuine give on the ground, you were disadvantaged, so keep that in mind when you're doing your form and seeing some disappointing performances. The track's played soft.
All righty, let's go through. We'll go from the top. Whiskey on the Hill kicked off the day here in a benchmark 78 race. Damien Lane aboard. There was good support for the galloper. Did not let the punters down. Defeated Flaming Romans and Corona Lad.
Yeah, basic sort of benchmark 78 here. If in doubt, you having a play, just stick with the good jockeys. As you said, Damien Lane got the job done there. The benchmark 78 will go to, and just a really good front-running ride by Daniel Stackhouse, because if he went too slow yesterday, you were dead as a leader, but he didn't go too slow, and that took the pace out of everyone else. Obviously, Federer was the big disappointment. Clearly wasn't right in the day. The odds were insane at $1.50 if you want to take them. Good luck. See you at the soup kitchen. Niles Murphy was okay. But, again, that was sort of like a benchmark race. So we've just got to be a bit careful from the first 3 races on the day. I'll include Poifect, who wasn't a bad return. In fact, I do want to put one in the black book here, Quickster. Miler, they absolutely walked. Huge mid-race, terrific return first up. Don't be surprised if Quickster improves from race 3.
Race 4, the Jim Maloney Stakes. I did have something on Delici Boulevard. I put it out on the show on Friday. Another bout at wins. Tell us about this race.
Yeah, again, we've sort of got really basic. The Melbourne fillies just haven't come up. So at this stage, so it was dominated by the Interstaters. I'd be very careful again of this form. They really walked here, and it was just a little bit of a dash home. So
it wasn't a bad run then, the second horse, to be able to make ground like it did.
Yeah, it was okay, but like I said, at the moment, there's still different form to come that you'd be wary of.
Ralphie, there's a horse that's fast becoming one of my favourites right now, and it showed everybody again yesterday. It's freaky good. What happened with Another Will late in this race? Looking to go up along the inside. Momentum was halted. On that stage, if you're aboard at the Shorts, which many were, you're thinking, oh, this has just got car crash written all over it. But the horse and Jamie Carr were able to balance up, come again. But there's something pretty special about this horse, Another Will. The stable have always talked the horse up, and you'll have a look at its career record now and what it's starting to do. There's very few times it goes to the races and does not deliver.
Yeah, it's a beauty. Put the mouthguard in. I tweeted out afterwards. Look like, for those who followed the wrestling in the 80s, looked like Leaping Lenny Poffo off the turnbuckle, didn't it?
It had the potential to be nasty, didn't it?
Yep.
It did. So Blake's got a bit of time for that. Bit of a mistake there. Toorak handicap, here we come. So really monster mid-race come on. Whistle Lass is in for a good prep too. Don't worry about that. And like a horse like Jimmy the Bear again out the back, no chance there tactics-wise. But Another Will, that's your perfect preparation now for the Toorak handicap. Good luck beating it.
Right, we go to the Tour de Horse Sprint, 1,100 metres, and Ashford Street, my old favourite, he was there, and right on the line, Jimmy Starr got him.
Yeah, and what a beautiful ride too by Jayla Kennedy to nearly get it. But Jimmy Starr, this is another one you want to put a big circle around it. Best last 800, 600, 400, 200 a day. Wow. We know he's a 1,400 miler. He's in for a beauty. So what he did when he launched at Caulfield earlier this year, that was off the short break. This time I'm channeling what Team Williams do in your region. They give him a real good break. And then when they come back big, just stay with them. So that was huge, Jimmy Starr. Ray Magnirio's in for a good prep. Commemorative, wouldn't mind seeing her up the straight. Wouldn't be surprised if they find a 1,200 for her there. And Ashford Street, as you said, is a ripper when he's right. But Jimmy Starr, one of the horses to follow from the meeting for sure.
On to race number 7 on the program, the Group 3. Catnack's Jewelers, Positivity with Harry Coffey aboard, defeated Future History and Gear Up.
Yeah, dominated on speed. Those off pace had no chance. So, there was horses that might improve back in the field, like Immediacy. The map's ticking over okay. It's got one grand final. I'd say St. George, even though it was a 4-way finish, this will bring St. George right on. Maybe a Herbert Power to get him into the Caulfield Cup that way. So don't drop off St. George. All 4 horses in the finish were proper race horses. They wanted to be there. But I think St. George has got a big elevation to come.
Group 1 Underwood Stakes. It was Buckaroo. Wow, what a win for Joe Moreira coming from back. Blew them away.
Yeah, he did, and he pretty much matched what he did at Sydney last start, but this time obviously off pace, and there's a reason for it. Now I've seen the numbers; they flew here. So Pericles, big forgive run. Don't be surprised if he runs a cracking race in the Epsom if they bring him back to that mile. I mean, that's 2 fast races in a row, so he's got them. He's right, and miles probably his best go. And horses that needed the run, like Place to Carousel, don't ride it off either because it was a fast run race. But yeah, Buckaroo's returned big time.
Had to be reshot at the barriers, Place to Carousel. That's never great viewing for punters that are aboard pre-race either. Race number 9, Angel Capital. This camper firing at the moment, the McDonald camp, and it was a really nice performance with Benny Mellum aboard, defeating Public Attention and Wannerua.
It was a blanket finish, but I noticed this race last year was a blanket finish too. We had Southport Tycoon and V8 come out of it, so you can't necessarily knock it. Particularly, Benny Mellon didn't want to go to the rails. It clearly wasn't the best lane yesterday, but he had to take the run. So elevated again. I think he's going to run really well in the Caulfield Guineas, but I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of Sydney big dogs can still win the race.
And Kundalini in the last for Mickey D.
Yeah, too good, G-Beg. I'll find him the day after I find the Tasmanian Tiger.
And the Penguin.
Too good, but yeah, exactly. Revolutionary Miss, 1,400 will be its go. It's one of the horses to follow, as is Ray McNero. But among the winners, just stick with Jimmy Starr and Another Will.
We've got a winner at Flemington today.
Killian and Slick and Quick, races 3 and 5.
Okay, thanks, Ralphie. All the best.
Good on you, boys.
On The Aftermath, it's time to introduce the 1985 Brownlow medalist from the Footscray Football Club, Brad Hardie. Introducing the boy from Hilton, the AFL guru, Brad Hardie.
Good morning, Bradley.
Good morning, Marty. Good morning, Shorty. How are you, boys? It's really good. I tell you what, I think we're going to be, all three of us, if I cast our minds back, I think we're nearly going to be right, Marty. I think at the start of the season we said, who do you think is going to win the flag? And I think I said, well, whoever beats Brisbane will win. And after the first 3 rounds, Shorty, I thought, there, I'm gone. And look at what's happened. Unbelievable. Can you recall what you blokes tipped? Can you?
I went GWS.
I was with Marty. I was with the Giants. And they weren't too far off, but they were, in the end, just narrow margins and coughing up healthy leads has cost them on the way through. And speaking of coughing up healthy leads, it's what Geelong did last night up against Brisbane. There's enormous credit that needs to go to Brisbane, though, Brad. I must admit that off that zero, there's been a number of times through this season where I've looked at Brisbane and thought, you're gone now. You've coughed up early games, going to be hard for you to get into a good position. And they came again, and then they gave up a gilt-edged opportunity to finish top 4, like so many sides did over that last 8-week period. And from there, I thought, it's going to be tough from outside the top 4. But they've just continued to find ways to dig in games when they've looked out of them and dig deep, hit the line hard, run their games out. And last night was another good example. One thing they do well, when they've got momentum going their way, they cash in on it.
Yeah, look, I mean, they've done it the same route as the Bulldogs in 2021 from 5th to get into the grand final. They're there now, and you're right. Look, I think it's been a long-held plan. I said to Marty, it's probably gone a little bit over time, but this is what they had been hoping to do. They had a good look at it last year and went so close. And as you say, it's always hard to butter up. You just think it's going to happen, but it doesn't. They were on the back foot early, as we all saw, and it was a stellar effort. But see, I think it's the Malcolm Blight theory for me, Marty. And what I mean by that, Shorty, is that it just outscore the opposition. You know what I mean? They can leak. Can't they leak? I mean, dearie me. I mean, last night they were fabulous up the front, Shorty. The defensive pressure inside forward 50, the amount of tackles, etc. But once the ball got outside their attacking 50, oh my God, they didn't have anybody sagging back or anybody to cover, at least an onslaught. It was like a game of basketball. It's just a fast break, and Geelong were getting their goals so easily, going back the other way. And Brisbane were getting a few shots, Bailey, a few of those, just missing and just pushing the one side or the other. And we saw on Friday night how accurate kicking does you really, really well. And that was a fabulous effort. And they had a few blokes who were passengers in the first half last week, similar last night, but they found a way again. And I refer to blokes like Rayner and that who hadn't really seen it. And you and I, Marty, have been big fans of Bailey. I said, get him on the ball, get him into the play. I mean, it's so easily read because it's always Neil, it's always McGluggage, it's always Dunkley. It's that type of player. But when you get somebody who gets a little bit unobtrusive like Bailey was last night, and all of a sudden he spends 70 to 80% in the forward line and about 10 to 20% on the ball. He needs to be more time on the ball, but it was a really, really good win and well done. And I think the best two teams are in it now and provides us with a fantastic grand final.
To be fair to Brisbane, their big names did play well last night, didn't they? For the 4-quarter efforts, those big names that they need and require to play well lifted and got the job done.
Zorko, Neil, sorry, Brad, just quickly, just to underline that, Zorko 32, Neil 31, Dunkley 28, McGluggage 27, Wilmot 24. They were the top 5 disposal getters on the ground. Brisbane's, 3 of those 5, the engine room, one off half-back and the other creative player off half-back. So their key players all got plenty of it.
Yeah, they did. And sometimes the stats can lie, but the bottom line is that they did. And I was surprised that, Scott didn't put a bit more work into particularly Lockie Neal. Ground ball gets were very important. You always knew that Brisbane were going to hold the upper hand with clearances. And I thought, well, that's okay because, Geelong normally have plan B and C, Marty, to counteract that. And they were playing the counter game. And they were, as I say, Brisbane were taking the ball in 50, inside 50s were pretty even, but they weren't capitalising on it. But when it came out, wow. But you just, unfortunately, there was a few there you just didn't know. I mean, everybody played well against Port Adelaide, but you weren't sure. Prelim finals, are a different beast, as we say. There's so much on on the line, and some people don't handle it as well as others. And I'm not being picky, but just run down the page. Where was Bruin last night? Cameron there early, didn't really give him Manor, fantastic. They're all fantastic against Port. Bowes, fantastic against Port. No, nothing like Stengel, God almighty. Dempsey, the rising star, good against Port. Nothing last night, really, bar one goal. Even Shannon Neal, who tried hard, but, it just didn't go for him. So I always say, boys, you can only play as well as the opposition allow you to. And Brisbane finally, when the penny dropped just after the start of the third quarter, they coughed up the first goal, and you thought, oh, this is going to look a little bit ugly here. They got down to work, and well done to Harris Andrews. He organised that back six. I thought Starcevich was outstanding. Even Payne. I mean, what about the rundown of Duncan there?
Yep.
There was some heroic efforts on both. Tom Stewart did one just before that, but when you lose, no one remembers that. Yeah, but you remember Payne, don't you? Because he run down Duncan when he should have either given it off or kicked the goal himself. So there was a lot to like about Brisbane's effort last night. But they're going to have to be careful, Shorty, because one thing John Longmire is a tactician, and if Brisbane get caught going one-dimensional next week against them and they cough the ball up, we saw what the Swans did on Friday night to Port Adelaide in turnover.
It's a good point you raised too about that rundown tackle of Duncan. If he kicks that goal, it's less than a minute to go, less than a goal to get.
Yep.
Could potentially have been clearance down their end and the chance to nick the game late. So that was a really, really important tackle late in the game, running into an open goal about 20 metres out.
He had Cameron to his left as well, if he had seen him. But anyway, that is that. Darcy Fort, does he come in for the Big O? He's done.
Yeah, they're not even going to risk Big O, Crackers kid, Crackers Keenan kid, I call him, but very unlucky. Gutsy effort, I mean, it's very frightening. The vision's more frightening than the actual injury, but he got it put back in and then it went out again, and of course the second time it wouldn't go back in properly, so they're not even going to risk it, Marty. And what it did do, and Joe Danaher, he's been an enigma, as we say, but he's been a good finals player, and he wasn't doing much because Blixars was the natural matchup for him, and Blixars had his number.
Yep.
But all of a sudden he had to go into the ruck, and he got going. And he got involved. Was he best on ground? Absolutely not. But the bottom line, it got him involved, and he started to do it. I'm sure Darcy Fort. I mean, Grundy wasn't that impressive in the first half on Friday, by the way. So, Fort's he's a good, honest player, but they may need to use Big Joe in the ruck next week against Grundy, to try and get an establishment, some silver service to the smaller blokes.
Yeah, play him, say 60%, not 80%.
Yeah,
on the ball and get him into the game, as you said. Great comments. What about the Friday night match? It was just, to me, Sydney had control of the game from the off, and they were never under pressure.
Yeah, he's a great tactician, Longmire, and you could see, and you blokes are into it, you're invested in it. You watch what Port Adelaide were trying to do. Port Adelaide just said, well, where does Sydney want to go? They like to take the ball through the middle of the SCG. So we'll clog that up. So what did John do? We'll go around the outside, boys. Just be tempo footy. Just make sure we get it. Again, get it into the forward 50. Make that last kick count. They had a Marty. They had Logan McDonald, all pressing up and booting up, and 9 goals, 1 Marty. Unbelievable. And Port made the mistake of trying to get the ball back through the middle of the field of themselves. Pokey, God almighty, didn't he want a bulldozer to dig a hole for himself about 3 or 4 times? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just couldn't get it. You couldn't lay the blame, but their method going forward was abysmal. We've spoken about Port before. They've changed it up a bit. Because remember when we used to talk about them, Shorty, and we've been doing this for a long time, Marty, so that anything forward of the centre went towards the 45-degree angle because they hoped to get goals from stoppages. Then they put Charlie Dixon and Marshall and co in the straight line, and they started to go long. What were they doing on Friday night? Just bombing it in, hoping one of those 3 blokes would mark it. And that just made the job really, really easy for the defence of Sydney. Once the ball hit the ground, there was no second and third efforts, and they just absolutely punished them on turnover, as we saw. But as I say, good kickings, good football, and they got over that sluggish start that they've been having, Sydney, and they'll want to do something similar with Brisbane next week. Yeah,
absolutely. It's a trap they fell into in the heavy early round loss they had to Geelong, Port, where they just wanted to bomb the ball into inside 50 and gave their forwards next to no chance. It was the same again. There's some real upside, though, for this out of this for Sydney. So Joel Amartey, who outside of his 9-goal game had sort of been questioned as to whether or not he would be in the grand final team, he really stood up there on Friday night with 3 goals. Tom Papley has been so important for Sydney, not just for his goals, but I'll tell you something, he's the a modern-day nutbag. It's like from years gone by, generations gone by, Brad, someone like a Dermot Brereton that'll just run through a couple of players and fire his teammates up and say, come on, boys. And he's just such a... I mean, you'd love to have him in your team. And I know there'll be opposition fans that'll say, I can't stand this bloke. But as a neutral watching him play, gee, you'd love to have him in your side. And he was excellent with his 3 goals. He sparks them right up. Chad Warner with his 2 goals, really good. And the other one that the Swans camp would have been really happy to see with a couple of goals under his belt was Logan McDonald. So they've been effectively getting it done without a Marty and McDonald having a huge influence. With those two getting 5, Papley 3, and their midfielders kicking in, I think that's probably a balance of goal kickers they'd be a bit more comfortable with than just relying on the smalls and midfielders all the time.
No doubt. And unfortunately, Alir and Zirk Thatcher, etc., their defensive work is zones. You know, they like to get back in the hole and expect the long one in. Well, any boot-up players will test them, and that's always been there. They're both, B players, B-grade players. It should be B+. They're never going to be A-grade. It's because of that very fact. They just can't go with blokes who boot up on them and run them around. They like the ball, kicked into the hole and, we'll get back in numbers and we'll be able to at least contest, spoil, bring the ball to ground. But yeah, no, I agree with you there, Shorty. But and as I say, that's where Marty and also Logan McDonald got smart. They got on the move. You've got to be on the move. And as you said with Papley, he just ignites the whole crowd. It's a sellout crowd there. It gets everybody involved, gets in your face. You love to hate him. You hate him because of what he does, and you love him to have him on your team, as you said. So that's where it sits there. But, Heaney was outstanding again, just kept working. Luke Parker had a lean night, but he'll have a job to do next week. And similar to what Archie did last night for Brisbane, he'll probably be the defensive forward sort of thing, but trying to do a job on somebody. And I suspect that it might even be Zorko. I don't know if we can go with him, but you can use him on the way back because anybody who can mark the ball like Parker can overhead will come into this game, as Archie has been able to prove in his end with Brisbane, because Humphries was fantastic. I was really impressed with Humphries.
Brilliant.
He played last night, very, very calm. He made his opponent his immediate starting point, Shorty, and he didn't go outside the rails or the parameters. But when he did, he was very, very effective. So he's got a real big future, that young man.
Sure has. Now, better get to the text line for Retrovision, 0427789571. I can remember when the Trots over the round in Calgary had a dozen bookies in the 70s. Gogsy Curtis around the field with a lap to go. Gary from Mundaring, thanks for that. That is for sure. Last week, loved the interview with John Tapp the other week, albeit with a touch of sadness due to Shad's passing. John Tapp, could listen to him all day long. Definitely one of my favourite callers and commentators growing up. Surely the Vicks building the grand final up as South Melbourne versus Fitzroy. Khan Fitzroy. Daniel from Inglewood. Yeah. There'll be a bit of that.
Well, that's right. But what I can tell you, a little bit of data, and it's a bit loose, but they say there's about 30,000 South Melbourne supporters, who've stayed with the Swans from the day one when they met. They first came to being. Fitzroy weren't as strong. They were around about 15,000. When the Brisbane Bears started and Fitzroy was still, it got down to half that, but it's back. It's back to around about 15,000. So there's 50,000 there. This is going to be a boon, Shorty, for the AFL. People are going to say, two interstate teams, how's that going to work? How about the TV audience, Marty, in the northern states?
Yep.
How's it going to be for Sydney, New South Wales, and Brisbane, Queensland, far north, whatever? Because the further you go to Cairns, it's Aussie rules. It's stronger than the NRL. So this is an absolute boon for the AFL, and there's probably a few bonuses going to be chucked around because the television are just absolutely wrapped. That's what they want, eyeballs on the TV. Well, normally it'd be a passing interest if Sydney's not in it, or Brisbane's not in it, or the Giants, or the Gold Coast, who've never been in it. So the bottom line is, this is fantastic for football, for the AFL nationally, because even people in Perth are going to be watching, I'm sure, as they will be in Adelaide and Darwin.
John of Crawley, he's been very happy with Drive and the talent that we've had on, and we're going to keep it up. We're going to make a concerted effort this week. Shorty, you're going to be playing a role as well, and we're going to go after as many big-name AFL players over the years that we can. Blokes like Dennis Pagan and Rod Eade and Terry Wallace and Mick McGuan will be on. And try
so good.
Mickey won the flag yesterday, Mickey.
Oh, he got up, did he?
Excellent.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Terrific.
2 weeks ago, obviously, Keilor, because what happens with Williamstown, some of the players at Williamstown who don't play in the VFL, Shorty, they go back to Keilor. And the other week when they played up at the Gold Coast, played Southport, they took all 7 of Mickey's players.
Oh, wow.
They got absolutely barreled in the second semi-final, like about 50 or 60 points. Like, it wasn't a small margin, it was a barreling. And they came out yesterday and won by 60 points, and so did their reserves. So Magpie Mick's at it again.
He's a legend.
Just woke up in a Swag Mount Magnet Race Club. Big night and day. Bob from Marble Bar said hi. That is Fox from Bicton. Oh, what a great day it was there for the Mount Magnet Cup yesterday. Everyone having a good chat. Now, this is one for you, Brad. 3 weeks for Jamie Carr's ride on Let's Face the Music is complete and utter crap.
Yes.
I noticed the wind didn't affect the ride on Another Wheel yesterday. Please get Brad's opinion.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. We said to the boys the other day, it looked like, well, if these things can be preconceived, said to the boys that she was going to get a month. They wanted her back around about Caulfield Cup time. I think it started at 6 weeks. It's ended up getting it down to 3. So unders for me, no doubt about that.
Yep.
But you got to give it to her. The young lady, she's full of courage. Had a nasty fall, as we know, and she went for a hole that probably wasn't there yesterday. So you can't have it both ways, can you? No. She didn't take one run a couple of weeks ago, but she took a run that probably wasn't there yesterday. Well, so good on her.
I think the run was there. It's just Blake Shin didn't see her. Yeah, and just shut the gate on her. Exactly, 100% right. Another one for Brad. Hey, Marty, can you ask Brad, Geelong medical stuff around for 20 minutes trying to get Holmes back on, and when they got him back on, he lasted 5 minutes. The emergency should have been straight on. That is from Snoz.
Yeah, lost the game there, Snoz, in that period of time. I think they added about 3 goals, Brisbane, in that time, Shorty. And, look, they were worried about the next week. They thought they had it. They thought they were in control, and they thought they could take a bit of time. But, didn't they have some look, we would have been going to court this week, Marty, because Dangerfield will now get time. I mean, that was stupid. I mean, he had a bit of byplay. He got a knee in the kidneys short just before that, so he's upset anyway. And then McGluggies pushed him into the centre bounce and pushed him into a couple of oncoming players. So he got a bit narky, and that's what he went after McGluggies for. And he threw him, and it was a double motion. There's no doubt about that. Anybody else, if that was a home and away game, would be getting up to 3 weeks for that. And I think they can give it to him now because of the fact that he's not going to be playing next week. But, you've had Holmes, of course, he won't be playing. Blixard looks sore. Things just went all right there for Geelong in that period of time, Snoz. You're absolutely right. Because whilst he was off the ground, he was a very, very integral player for Geelong, they coughed up 3 and a bit goals.
Indeed. And obviously now with that coming to a close, the end of the career of Tommy Hawkins at Geelong, I just wanted to quickly give him a mention this morning. He's been a mighty player for the Cats for a really significant period of time. Unfortunately, sport doesn't always end up in fairy tales, and it hasn't quite worked out in that regard for him, but he can bow out of the game with his head held very high, a guy that competed incredibly well from the get-go. Yeah, and Tui, exactly right. He was another that was probably right on the cusp of getting a game there, and I'll be honest, at different stages of that game yesterday, I thought they probably could have used his experience down back at different stages of that match.
I agree. The run and the Conning was the one for me. I mean, he's so versatile because we knew Blixards had to go to Danaher, but what you wanted to get is they needed some more big man run around. Unfortunately, as I say, Shannon Neal still learning, or they could have thrown Blixards forward. Something. They would have given him an extra string to their bow. He's not a sentiment coach. He's a pretty tough in that regard, but I think he'd be double guessed himself this morning saying, geez, I think I should have played Conning. I really do.
You wouldn't have minded Conning taking that last kick, would you? Instead of Stanley. Hey?
Oh, I know.
Hey, morning, guys and team.
What about the loser's limp?
Oh, well, he was pretty sore before he took it, but he was very sore after he kicked it. Hoops Fest, huge success. Great start for the Wildcats. Cotton and Pinder, 55 points between them. Wallabies, they came back hard against the All Blacks, just to fall down by 3 points with at least 12 passengers. Port were no match for Sydney. Brisbane, another third quarter comeback to roll the Cats by 10 points without the big O. And easy missed goals by the Cats proved costly. And guys, I think Dangerfield's dangerous tackle on McGluggish was the game changer. Go the Royals against Peel. Freo in the GF today. Have a great day and week. That is from Lisa Vellenbrook. And she's put in her Brownlow picks. Patrick Cripps, Dacos tie on 33, with Heaney, followed by Lockie Neal. Sydney for the flag by 17 and Heaney for Norm Smith. That is Lisa Vellenbrook.
Yeah, well, she's wrapped it all up there. Look, all you'd be worried about, I don't mind Brisbane next week on the big ground. I really don't. I think Sydney are specials at the SCG. They haven't always got it done at the MCG, Shorty, and I think the bigger ground and the array of as many stars as Sydney have got, so have Brisbane in their own right, and they're building. So that's going to be the interesting part for me in terms of I would imagine with the Brownlow. I think young Nick Dacos gets home. They're talking about a tie here, but I just think that we'll know early. Because Nick will come out of the blocks a million miles an hour, even though Collingwood weren't winning. So if he's right there in the first half of the count with Heaney, he's going to be hard to stop.
Just on that market with tab touches, take your pick, $2.50 each of two Cripps and Nick Dacos.
Yeah.
Lockie Neal $7.50, the Bont $13, 31 for Merritt and Sarong, 51 Green, 67 for Goulden. We've got stacks of different specials, team by team votes, so you can multi up if you're looking to get involved there. And just quickly to that Waffle Grand Final today, East Perth $1.77, Peel at 2.02, the line -2.5 East Perth to win by 3 or more. That's into $1.85. There is a tab touch exclusive on the game as well. If you're looking to have a first goal scorer play on the game, it is plus 30%. And if they miss but kick a goal in the first quarter, money back up to $50. So good luck to everyone having a play there on the Waffle Grand Final today. Good luck to Peel and East Perth.
Here's one from Barney of Boulder for you, Brad. Time for a Twilight Grand Final. Stuff tradition. Get with the times. It will be unreal. What do you think?
Andrew Dillon's a bit of a US-centric. He loves that. The Americans do, but not anytime soon. The punters are speaking. I think it's a great day. I get it. What do you want, a few fireworks and whatever? That's what you're talking about. I mean, You're talking about a few fireworks. Mate, the game, Barney, is the attraction, not the peripheral stuff. Now,
you're here for loans 1, 2, 3 and Retrovision, but you're also here to give us a Sunday saviour, Brad.
We got it last week.
Yes,
Ginger.
You got the money.
Ginger, we got it last week. I've got a big one today for you. Look, we're going down to Devonport on that all-weather track. It's not my favourite, but there's a bit of form down there. Devonport, race 3, number 5, Passiona. I used to love that drink.
I love the can of Passiona.
$4.20. That's in race 3, number 5. Race 7, number 2, Quicken Up. That's $3.50. I think it'll go to the front and improve its position. And we'll come home with now a race 7, a debutant for Annabelle Neesham and Archibald there. Number 8, Cash Burn. We've done a bit of that, Shorty, over the journey. $2.30. Passiona, $4.20. Quicken Up, $3.50. They're both at Devonport, races 3 and 7. And come home with Cash Burn in race 7, number 8. $33.80. We'll have a bit of a bank. Have a bit of a punt on the Brownlow medal tomorrow night.
Big week coming your way. You enjoy it over there. We'll talk during the week.
I'll talk to the boys tomorrow on the daily. Have a great weekend, lads.
Thanks, Brad.
Sunday morning, we will do the talking on the Aftermath with Marty Young and David Shortte on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
One off the text line there, David.
Indeed, yeah. Shout out this morning to our great mate, the Shane Train. He's heading up to Kalgoorlie today to the KBRC for a big day of racing upcoming. He sent a message through this morning at 4:10, so he was on the road nice and early. So, Shane-o, to yourself, Puffer, all the team heading up there to the Goldfields. Good luck with all of your runners today.
Yeah, it could be a big day for the Puff stable up there today. Simon Hill joins us to talk EPL. A very good morning, Simon.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Going beautifully, thank you, Simon. Nice to be catching up on this Sunday morning. It was plenty of goals from the Premier League there overnight. We'll work through these games, and Chelsea kicked it off with pretty comfortable victory over West Ham. Goals in the 4th, 18th and 47th minute to win 3-0.
Yeah, comfortable against West Ham. A couple of goals for Nicholas Jackson, who's had a good start to the season. One for Cole Palmer, who, of course, was their top scorer last year, condemning West Ham to a third consecutive home defeat. There are a couple of question marks already about Julian Lopetegui in charge of West Ham, a very lacklustre display, particularly at home. But Chelsea, under Enzo Maresca, are going okay. After a little bit of a wobbly start, they've managed to get themselves up near the top 4. So, despite the plethora of players that they've signed, which I think at last count was 43 senior pros, but Maresca seems to be able to find the right blend at the moment. And as I say, Nicholas Jackson's been the standout. Jadon Sancho made his starting debut. He looked pretty good as well. So maybe better times ahead for Chelsea after a tricky couple of years following the departure, of course, of Roman Abramovich, their former owner.
Aston Villa waited till late, but in the end, comfortable 3-1 winners over Wolves. Wolves were first to strike, though, in the 25th minute, and then the Villains cranked up in the 73rd, 88th and 94th minute to go on and win quite comfortably there at Villa Park 3-1.
Yep, 3 goals in 17 minutes. Ollie Watkins, Ezri Konsa and John Durant. Matthias Cunha had put Wolves in front. They were a bit sleepy in the first half, Aston Villa, maybe because they played European football in the Champions League, of course, their big return to that competition during the week. They won that game as well. But Unai Emery's team have got resilience these days. And, of course, in Ollie Watkins, they've got a proven Premier League goal scorer, which always helps. An emotional day at Villa Park as well, paying tribute to Gary Shaw, who older listeners might remember was part of Villa's 1981 championship winning team and then winning the European Cup the year after. So a good day for Villa, although they had to wait a while. As for Wolves, well, they're down at the bottom. 1 win in the last 15 games, and they've got Liverpool at home next week. So it might be a long old winter for Wolverhampton Wanderers.
Okay, Fulham 3-1 against Newcastle, Shorty's boys, and then Leicester City and Everton drew 1-1.
Yeah, Fulham almost out of sight after 22 minutes against Newcastle. Raul Jimenez and Emil Smith-Rowe got a standing ovation when he came off. He was probably the best player on the pitch. Newcastle, a bit similar to Aston Villa, very sleepy in the first half. Only 1 shot on target. They were better in the second. Harvey Barnes got 1 back, but they just couldn't find that equaliser, and Reece Nelson made the point save for Fulham in stoppage time. So Newcastle missing the chance to go top. At the other end, Everton were bottom without a single point all season. And, of course, they went out the Carabao Cup on penalties to Southampton during the week as well. They got a point at Leicester, which at least gets them off that dreaded 0 mark. A strange game, this one. A torrential downpour after hot conditions at the start of the game. Second half was held up because the rain was so heavy. By then, Iliman Ndiaye had given Everton the lead. Steffi Mavadidi had earned Leicester a point in the second half. But it's the 4th game in a row that Everton have let the lead slip. So that's something they've got to put right if they're to climb away from the bottom 3. But at least they got a point and they're off the foot of the table.
Indeed. Liverpool comfortable 3-0 winners there at Anfield. A brace for Diaz and Nunes also on the score sheet there. The Cherries never really in the contest.
No, Liverpool beat Bournemouth 9-0 at home a few years ago, and I think probably after that first half there were a few thinking it was going to be a similar sort of scoreline, but Bournemouth were a bit better in the second half. They shut up shop, more about damage limitation really. A good week for Arne Slot, obviously after they lost their last home game to Nottingham Forest, but they bounced back. Good win against Bournemouth, and of course they got that win over AC Milan in the Champions League as well. So they're now top ahead of the big Sunday game, Manchester City against Arsenal, which I'm sure we'll come on to later.
Yeah, we certainly will. Now, Southampton and Ipswich Town drew 1-1, and then Spurs got that win they were looking for, 3-1 against Brentford.
Yeah, all square at St Mary's, Southampton, Ipswich. Southampton's first point of the campaign, but their manager, Russell Martin, absolutely ropeable after the game that they let all 3 slip. Sam Morsey scoring a 95th minute equaliser for Ipswich after Tyler Dibbling had given Saints the lead. That will feel like a defeat for Southampton, even though they've got that first point. And conversely, for Ipswich, who've got 3 draws and 2 losses on their return to the big time for the first time since 2002, that will feel like a win for them. Tottenham had to win really against Brentford. The pressure was really on Ange Postecoglou after their worst start to a season in 9 years. And for the second consecutive match, Brentford scored within 25 seconds. Remarkable, really. They did it against Manchester City last time out. Johan Wissa. This time it was Brian and Burmo. But similar to the game against Manchester City, they couldn't hang on. Dominic Solanke's first goal for Tottenham. Brennan Johnson and James Maddison with the second and the third. Son Heung-min, the architect, with 2 assists. So that's an important 3 points for Ange. They've got a big week coming up, Europa League against Karabakh on Thursday, and then a trip to Old Trafford to face Manchester United. So they had to win that one.
And we rounded it out with a 0-0 draw between Crystal Palace and Manchester United. Another opportunity for the Red Devils going under there. They find themselves 11th on the table right now. What's the latest on Manchester United, Simon, from your perspective? It's been a very disappointing few years. What's the temperature like with Man U for this season?
Yeah, it's so difficult to read, isn't it? That they're so hot and cold. I mean, you think back to the FA Cup final last season when they beat Manchester City, and they were excellent that day. I was in London watching the Charity Shield when they played City, and to be honest, United should have won that day. On their day, they can be a very, very good side. The problem is they have too many off days. Now, Eric Ten Hag said that their first half performance in particular was terrific yesterday. He actually was quoted as saying they ate Palace alive. But if you can't convert any of your chances, then you're going to struggle to climb the table. Bruno Fernandes hit a post. Garnacho had a couple of opportunities. This is a key stat. United's XG, which is the expected goals stat that's very popular these days in football, is 9.53. But they've only scored 5 times so far this season. So that's a fair indication as to where they're at. Rasmus Højlund is back from injury, which will help, but you just still sense that they're a fair way short of challenging the likes of City, Arsenal and Liverpool for the title.
Indeed. A couple of games still to come this round that we'll touch on now, Simon. And the other really thing of significance I wanted to get your thoughts on was Graham Arnold moving on from the Socceroos. He's been a wonderful servant to the game here in Australia. And while we've got him on the menu, let's touch on that because it's something I wanted to really get your thoughts on. I think it's probably come at a decent time for Australian football in regards to having time between now and being able to qualify for the next World Cup. Was it his call, do you think, solely that he stepped away from the game? And secondly, the legacy that he leaves. He's been amazing for the game and so many levels for a really long period of time.
Well, look, I agree with all those sentiments. I think in terms of whose decision it was, we can only go on, what we've heard publicly. What happens behind closed doors, of course, is between Football Australia and Graham Arnold. But there was a little hint, I suppose, after the draw against Indonesia in the last FIFA window where he said he was going to go home and have a long think about things. So that was perhaps a little hint that, all was not quite well and that he was considering his position. I must say, I was still surprised that he resigned. Now, was he given a little nudge along the way? I don't know. It doesn't sound like it from the public pronouncements, but as I say, you never really know what goes on behind closed doors. But, maybe it's time for a change. 6 years is a long time, particularly in international management. I know that Arnie had some frustrations, with the state of the game, as we all do in this country. And maybe he felt as though he'd taken this batch of players as far as he possibly could. But we'll have the memories of that World Cup in 2022 in particular to remember him by, and I'm sure he'll be back involved in football at some stage. But 40 years, really, a contribution to the national teams, from player to assistant coach to head coach. So he's been one of the greats. There's no doubt about that.
He's a polarising figure as well, and he did mention that there's a lot of criticism that you get over here, particularly. And the interview that I saw, he just genuinely looked like he was tired and he'd had enough, and his time had come.
Yeah, I think that's a fair comment. Look, with regards to the criticism, I come from Europe where, to be honest, the criticism that Australian coaches get is, it's child's play in comparison. So I can't agree with that. If you want to see real pressure, go and look at what Gareth Southgate had to put up with during the European Championships. And he got to the final, by the way.
Correct.
I'm not sure I buy that particularly, but, it is a job that comes with an awful lot of stress. And, maybe he just had reached the end of the road. It happens for coaches. Sometimes they just need a break. So, he's earned it. Good on him.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that last press conference after their most recent loss, I think it just all came to the fore. And he's always been a wee man, and he singled some of the players out and said they weren't good enough. Like, that was the first time I've ever heard him speak about them, not us. So maybe he was just at the end of his tether. A couple of games still to come this round. Simon, we've got Brighton $1.70 for the draw, $3.80. Nottingham Forest at $4.60. And your boys Man City take on the Gunners. Should be a good game, this one. $1.74 for City. The draw, $3.65. And Arsenal, $5.
Yeah, look, I think there might be a bit of value in a couple of those odds. Brighton against Forest first. Brighton are unbeaten so far this season, but so are Nottingham Forest. And they've just come off the back of a 1-0 win at Anfield, the first time they won there since 1969. And they've won 4 straight away games as well. So, there might be some value in having a look at the draw there between Brighton and Forest. And I think similarly, Man City Arsenal obviously is the headline clash of the weekend, really. And the reason why I'd be sort of leaning towards a draw in this one is that the two main playmakers, one for either side, are both going to be missing, or probably anyway. Martin Odegaard is definitely out for Arsenal. Kevin De Bruyne probably won't play for City. Both coming off goalless draws in the Champions League during the week. City against Inter, Arsenal away to Atalanta. And these games, as it certainly was last season at the Etihad, they're very nip and tuck. Arsenal really parked the bus there last season. I don't think they'll play the same way this time, but I wouldn't be surprised if this one ended in a draw.
Okay, Simon, so going the draw there.
$13.87, Marty, the double draw. Worth a little. That's worth a couple of bucks.
Yeah, my health it is.
Definitely. Yeah. Simon, great catching up with you this morning. Thanks so much, as always, for your insights into all the Premier League, and particularly enjoyed the chat on Graham Arnold. He's been a wonderful man for Australian football, and I hope he enjoys his break. Look forward to catching up with you again next Sunday.
Great stuff. Don't forget the Australia Cup semi-final later on today. South Melbourne, Macarthur. That's where I am in Melbourne.
Enjoy the game, Simon.
Cheers.
On the Aftermath, you're listening to Marty Young and David Shortte right here on Tab Radio Racing and Sport.
Racing, Meineke Boy came out midfield showing speed. Sunset Hornet, Barbecue Man's going to work forward. Then followed by Weston, Booney, Hinto. Meineke Boy's got a lot of work to do. He's about 7 lengths off Barbecue Man. And going forward with Sunset Serengeti. 2:50 to run. It's Barbecue Man out by 3 lengths on Sunset Hornet. 2 away to Weston, Booney winding up. Then followed by Hinto, Sunset Serengeti. Meineke Boy as they straighten. Barbecue Man in front. Sunset Hornet dives, but Barbecue Man a length. Sunset Hornet. Third was Weston, Booney. Fourth, Meineke Boy was amazing.
Barbecue Man, excellent last night, taking out a heat of the Spring Gift there at Mandurah. Trainer Paul Stuart now joins us. Good morning to you, Paul. Congratulations. Barbecue Man's been a wonderful campaigner for the kennel for a pretty significant period of time now. It was a really nice win there last night.
Yeah, morning, guys. Thanks for that, Shorty. Yeah, he was super last night. He drew wide, which is not preferable for him, and he's been showing some nice early pace, which he's found sort of late in his career. His box manners have been a bit unreliable over the course of his career, but in the last sort of month or so, he's put it together and stepped beautifully and got to the bunny early. And once he's sort of found the front, he's going to be pretty hard to beat.
Yeah, I thought his run the week prior was very good in our biggest race of the year down there at Mandurah. He finished 4th in the Mandurah Cup at Group 2 level behind Mulfetta Cruz, but was only beaten 3.5 lengths, and it was a high-quality line-up. I think off that performance, he certainly put the writing on the wall that a win wasn't too far away. Just needed that little bit of luck early to maybe beat some of the key rivals to that spot right up on top of the speed, and did that well last night.
Yeah, exactly right. I think his last few starts, he's sort of been up against, the likes of Crumble Manelli, and they've sort of just had the draw on him. They've drawn sort of inside, and it was a run probably 2 or 3 runs back where he actually come out better than them, and they just sort of crumbled just with his early paces, pushed up underneath him and just held him out. And last night there wasn't that sort of explosive pace in the race, and he come out beautifully and found himself on the arm, which he hasn't done for a while. Down at Mandurah, and he made the most of it. So it's a good confidence booster. Hopefully he can repeat his first section next week, and that'll put him with a pretty big chance in the final.
Well, talking about the draws, the draw for the Spring Gift Final, box 1 Wise Barra, 2 Sunset Nightjar, 3 Chef's Kiss, 4 is Barbecue Man, 5 West on Booney, 6 Sunset Hornet, 7 Molfetta's Cruise, and 8 is Transcendent. Inside Scoop 9 and just can't read that. Oh yeah, Hinto is 10. What do you make of the draw?
Good for us for a change. For him, he's normally drawn out in the car park most of the time. He makes the final, so the 4 does him good. Is sort of the real red hot pace is sort of on his outside. So if he sort of can step like he has been, he's going to put him on the fence where he needs to be. So he's just got to try and dodge the one. The dog in the Wise Barra, he's got some good early pace on his night and tends to use a bit of the track. So he could be a bit of a hindrance if we sort of miss a start and find him. But yeah, not unhappy with the draw for sure.
Well, you just got to hope that either Chef's Kiss or Sunset Nightjar sort of step on terms with Wise Barra, and hopefully they can sort of keep each other at bay there, and that would allow Barbecue Man enough time to get across to the fence there. West on Booney on your immediate outside's not likely to give you too many dramas early, so it does look like Barbecue Man will get those steps required early doors to find a spot up on speed, and from there can be right in this final there next week. Speaking of that Mandurah Cup final, you had the greyhound that finished runner up, and it was one of the biggest runs I've seen on a racetrack for quite a long time, to be honest. Bezecchi rattled home for second. He wasn't here in these heats. Is everything okay with Bezecchi, and when are we likely to next see this very talented sprinter step out?
Yeah, he's fine. He it was just a drama yesterday, to be honest. I sent him to Sydney. I thought he's earned a sort of a crack at the have a go at the $1 Million Chase. Anyway, he had a trial there yesterday in between races, or an exhibition trial, and went good, but they didn't shut the catching pen gate, so he actually done an extra half a lap. And then cannon into the lure and cut his foot. So I haven't spoke to him this morning, so we're unsure as to how he is, but not ideal. He trialled good. He trialled 29.60 odd first look. Away from WA, and then he's had that happen to him. So we'll have to see how we go. So the only probably positive, well, it's not really any positive, but the thing on our side is he was going to be in the heats. Basically, he's got to qualify, win heat, semi and final if he was to make a final. Mm-hmm. And those heats are 2 weeks' time, so he's got a week to sort of
get over
himself up and hopefully, go again in 2 weeks' time.
Is that enough time?
I'm unsure.
Yeah.
I've got to see how he is today. I mean, It won't bother the dog. If it was ever going to happen to a dog of my kennel at the minute, he's probably the one that might get away with it because he's actually naturally strong. So I'm hoping it doesn't take too much out of him. It's just going to be a monitoring thing for the next few days is to see how he is, and then we'll probably progress from there. I was looking to race him on this Saturday, but that's gone out the window, and we'll just have to basically just monitor him for the next couple of days and just see how he is and whether we push forward or whether he comes back home.
We'll be watching closely for Bezecchi there. Hopefully Saturday week it's fit and firing and ready to roll. And well done to Sunset Fraser, who took out a race there at the Gardens. He will be now auto-qualifying, as I understand it. I think if it runs top 3 into the semi-final round of the $1 Million Chase. So great to see West Aussies going well all over the country. Beautifully done, Paul. Congratulations again on the win of Barbecue Man, and good luck for the final next week.
No worries. Thanks very much, guys.
Thank you. There he goes, Paul Stewart. He's a ripper. Love chatting with Paul. He simplifies everything, doesn't he? Big game today. Which way are you going? East Perth Peel. The money keeps coming for the Royals, doesn't it? Into $1.77.
Yeah, I think I'll go with East Perth, Marty, today. But hopefully it's a good, close game, something for everyone to enjoy. And good luck to everyone having a punt as well on the Brownlow. We'll keep an eye out for some of the Tab Touch specials on the Brownlow if you're getting involved there on Monday night.
Yes, and those tips for Flemington today from Racetrack Ralphy, race 3, number 6, race 5, number 1. Brad Hardie, Devonport 3-5-7-2, and coming home at Nowra 7 and 8. Thanks for coming in, Dave.
Cheers, Marty.